Stanley presents, oh, hey, that's me, The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. Excelsior. Welcome.
It's time for the further adventures of Indiana Jones.
Some of the greatest adventures of my life are sitting in this museum.
Big deal.
Pack your bag, grab your passport, and prepare to go globetrotting with Marvel Comics' classic four-color adventures of Indiana Jones.
Oh, your teacher.
Part-time.
Mr. Henry Jones, Jr. of Princeton, New Jersey.
I like Indiana.
We named the dog Indiana.
Now, what shall we talk about?
Welcome, IndyCast listeners, Further fans, to the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. I'm Joe Stuber, joined once again here in the States by Keith Voss. Keith, you're here.
I'm here again. Yeah, I'm vlogging more travel time than Dr. Jones himself, it seems.
Oh, that red line. You're going to get some crazy travel miles here, some freaking flyer miles here.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. I went to Canada for, my wife is playing in the World Championships of Lacrosse in Oshawa.
Yay,
Yeah, they did a great job. It just wrapped up. They placed 13 out of 19, which is amazing for their team. So big applause for my wife and the rest of the team. So yeah,
they were going up against some heavy hitters there too.
Some heavy hitters. They made it to the championship round quite early, and once that happened, then they were playing like Wales and Ireland and some big hitters, but they did really well. We're very proud of them, and so spent some time in Canada. Just came back down to my parents' house again, and spending a couple of weeks here, and then heading back over to Austria again.
Man, you guys are having some great adventures.
Yes, indeed.
You're gonna need a vacation after your vacation.
Isn't that the truth?
We have made it through Dragon by the Tail. Thank God.
Wasn't easy, but we did it.
Wasn't easy, but with the help of the listeners, we made it through. And now we're on to the first of two Further Adventures miniseries.
That's right. This is the first of, like you said, the first of two 3-parters.
We never have that.
That does not happen.
No, we're so used to the Dark Horse issues where we get those 4 to 6 miniseries. We don't have that in Further Adventures.
Right. Most comics nowadays, they go 5 or 6 issues for a whole storyline. Then you collect it all in the graphic novel a few months later. That did not happen in Further Adventures. We got 1 issue, 2 issues at most. Yeah. Like we said, the first 3-parter. And this is the first 3-parter that's an original adventure. The Raiders adaptation was 3 issues. The upcoming Temple of Doom adaptation, 3 issues. So first time in Indiana Jones history that we get what could be a feature-length story in comic book form.
Yeah, pretty good one, too. And you mentioned Temple of Doom. That adaptation, hey, if you look at the cover date on this, we are heading around Temple of Doom time.
That's right.
We're going back in 1984. So the Temple of Doom adaptation, that 3-part adaptation that came out, actually fell in the middle of this 3-part adventure. So just for the listeners' benefit, we're going to go ahead and get through this 3-part adventure, the Cuban Connection, and then once it wraps up, we're going to move on to the Temple of Doom adaptation.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
we got lots of goodies for Temple of Doom.
That's going to be a fun one. But yeah, we don't want to kind of break up the storyline. So even though it fell in the middle of this one, we're going to review this one, and then we'll move on to Temple of Doom. So a lot of good stuff coming up. As we mentioned, very special time here in Further Adventures with this first miniseries. I think we need a special guest reviewer.
You know what? This is a big event, and we need – you're right. We do need a special guest reviewer. So you know what? Why don't we head into the Raven's Nest, and we'll just go ahead and introduce him.
Well, Keith, the joint is jumping, the drinks are flowing, the music's playing. We got a very special guest here at our VIP table today. Especially for a reviewer, this would be great to review an indie comic book. We've got, welcoming back to the IndyCast, Ron, the reviewer. Ron Longo, everybody. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you very much. How you guys doing?
Excellent.
Doing pretty good, Ron.
It hasn't been that long since Ron's been on the IndyCast. That was just the very last episode. Ron, if you're new to the IndyCast, Ron co-hosts the John Williams specials along with Laird Malamed. Those two are doing a great job. The most recent one, we've got John Williams. We've got the Return of the Jedi anniversary. We've got Man of Steel. Very nice job you guys did. On every IndyCast special, you guys do a great job.
Thanks, I appreciate it. And it's a lot of fun, and it's something that we've been doing now for, I think, almost 3 years. And, having Laird come on board and our love of music, him and I are just big soundtrack fans. And, you've heard Laird. Laird's his background is extensive. And I'm just there pretty much with my love of film and music. And, Laird, as you can see, he's really an aficionado with everything. So I just love doing it with him.
And as we mentioned, we're on to our first of two Further Adventures miniseries. We're starting the Cuban Connection here with issue number 20. And as always, Keith, why don't we go ahead and start this issue off with the Creator Rundown?
Let's do it. So we have the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, issue number 20, with a cover date of August 1984. We got plot by David Michelinie, script by James Owsley, pencils by Luke McDonnell, inks by Danny Bulinati, lettering by Rick Parker, coloring Robbie Carosella, editor Eliot Brown, editor-in-chief, good old James Shooter.
Yeah, and boy, talk about a cover. Where do you start with this one?
This cover, oh my goodness. This cover is pretty infamous in the world of the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. Where do we even begin?
Yeah, the stories behind the cover are probably more involved than any story that comes after the cover. If you go back and listen to Elliot Brown's interview that we had with him on IndyCast 142, just start off, he said this is the one, according to him, he said he got screwed over on. He had mentioned that the cover was the last thing done. Luke McDonnell, our penciler, our artist for this particular issue, eliminated himself from the process. I don't even know if we've confirmed that he even finished this particular issue. Somehow, this is the issue that Luke had bailed on.
Well, there's no name on the cover.
There's no name on the cover. He mentioned that Luke wasn't around to do it. He said the cover was penciled and inked by himself, Elliot Brown, and Jack Morelli.
And yeah, there's an interesting story behind that too, with Elliot Brown inking and penciling that cover. Now, originally, if you see on our Further Adventures Facebook page, we posted the original pencils of this cover. And Elliot Brown, what he did was he traced Indy running away from the Jovitos. From Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep, that shot there is the image of Indy running away from the Jovitos, grabbing the hat and everything.
That's right. But it was pretty bad.
Well, even according to Elliot, and definitely according to Jim Shooter, because Jim Shooter vetoed it. You can see that. You can see Elliot's version on our Facebook page. Go in. It's interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's different. But then what happened was, it got shot down pretty quick. And then what happened was, I guess Mark Teixeira came in and redid some work. And it looks much better, you have to admit.
Yeah, well, Teixeira did that Indiana Jones you see there. So we've got Elliot Brown did a bunch of stuff on it. He said the sugar canes and the bullet hits were done by Al Milgram, who just happened to be in the bullpen. Teixeira did that Indiana Jones. They cut that out. They slapped it over, taped it down. You can see that on our Facebook page, the brand new Indy. And this is where things got a little difficult for Elliot Brown because he had worked on this cover, so he turned in a voucher for this to Jim Shooter.
Yeah, he charged for those pencils and inks.
Yeah, but as the editor, you're not allowed to do that. And he said he didn't get that nicety at the time. He didn't understand that nicety at the time. So that got him fired off the book.
That's what got him fired. Yeah, it's unfortunate that a little mistake like that got him taken off this book. But
Massachusetts Brown.
Yeah, he got himself into some trouble that he just couldn't get out of. Unfortunately, Indy wasn't there to bail him out, help him out for that adventure. But what we do get here is, I actually think, a pretty solid cover. It's a big mishmash of artists and all kinds of people involved in it. But I actually really like this cover. It reminds me a lot. I'm a big Hitchcock fan. This cover reminds me of North by Northwest.
And that's what I have written down too, because that's what it reminds me of also.
Right? I mean, you have Cary Grant running across the field and getting shot at by the plane. I mean, that's exactly what I see here. So I think this cover is really cool. You have Indy running through the sugarcane field and the planes chasing him. Also, a little bit of Last Crusade thrown in there too.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this one, and even I think in the omnibus, it credits Joe Brzezowski, who alias J.J. Birch is also credited with the cover. So a lot of people involved in this. We haven't even tracked down whether or not he was involved in it. And Eliot Brown mentioned that the book was just chaos at this time. But even amid all the chaos, this cover, it came together with all the craziness. People getting fired from it, guys cutting things out and slapping things together and taping it down. I think it works.
The Teixeira Indy looks great. I really like it.
Yeah, it's probably the best artwork of the book, I would guess.
I agree. Yeah, we'll get into that as we...
So, yeah, pretty good stuff, but as we go through. So why don't we go ahead and we'll review the actual issue itself, issue number 20, The Cuban Connection. Wilhelmina might be screaming a little bit. Not screaming as loud as she did for Dragon by the Tail, but...
No.
Maybe some of the artwork she might be screaming about in this one. I don't know.
Oh, for sure.
It's
a
pretty good story.
The artwork's a little bit of a letdown. It's a good story, and you know what? This is actually our first, three-parter.
Well, and this is one of the reasons I'm reviewing this with you is because I don't have every issue. And when I was a kid, I love comic books, but I remember this is one that I bought, and it did continue, so that made me want to buy and finish up the Cuban Connection.
Yeah, and isn't that, just the world of Indiana Jones, you want those continuing adventures, you want those cliffhangers, you want those aspects of it. So those, to me, the ones that continue on, are the ones that are most memorable.
Absolutely.
I agree. It's exactly like a serial, like the old-time serial. We want to, all right, we get left with a cliffhanger. We want to see what comes next. We're going to go by that next book. I think that's just something, at that time, Marvel just didn't quite understand. I think if they were to go back and redo this series again, I think that they would have learned their lesson and say, okay, you know what, we need to do like a 10-part serial here, a 10-part story, which would be incredible, in my opinion.
And technically, it even continues on beyond, because we look at the splash page here. Well, we're tying into issues that happened before. We're going all the way back to issue 11, The Fourth Nail, when we had Indy stealing the Arnam Ring calendar. If we remember that big splash page of him running through the sandstorm. We've got another great splash page here with the Arnam Ring, and we've got mystery solving Indy. Again,
yeah, he looks like Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, I like mystery solving Indy.
Yeah, he looks like he's investigating the donut here when I first opened it.
Yeah, unfortunately, just like some of the ingredients in donuts, this Arnam Ring is a fake.
Right,
fake.
It's a fake.
Well,
you can tell.
But Indy, he knows better. He knows better than. And then all of a sudden we've got, because remember back in issue 18 we left with that crazy fill-in issue 19. But going back to the end of issue 18, we had all those plot threads that needed to be solved. Marcus got fired because the Arnam Ring was a fake, and now we've got Marcus's replacement coming in, Osborne Slomes-Hagen. Great name.
It is a great name. He's an interesting-looking character.
Yeah.
Something I noticed about... he only appears in this one book on this one page, which is a shame. I would have liked to have seen him around a little bit more. But he's kind of an interesting guy, isn't he? He just kind of like... he has a lot of respect for Indy, but he's saying that Marcus might have been the one to pilfer the Arnam Ring to pad his retirement account, and Indy doesn't take too kindly to that.
No, and he seems like almost villainous the way they're drawing it. It looks a little bit like Hugo Strange.
Yeah, I thought that too when I was reading the book again, and I thought it was interesting too. You always know it's a shady character when you don't quite see their eyes, and you don't see his eyes at all behind those glasses.
No, and I agree with you what you said. I would have liked to seen him in further issues because it would have been kind of nice to have Marcus have an adversary.
That's right. I totally agree with that. Indy has adversaries all the time, right?
Sure.
How cool would it be for Marcus to actually have an adversary?
And in this adventure, we do get a lot more background into Marcus.
That's right.
As we get through the next couple of issues, we don't want to throw too many spoilers out, but Marcus is more of a man of action than we kind of were led to believe from Raiders. And we'll talk about that as we go through a little bit. But we've got Slomes-Hagen here. He's mentioning that he doesn't really have a problem with Indy. Indy knows that when I took that ring, that was the original one. I knew it.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, that's not a problem, but it's Marcus Brody that's the problem. He says he had blood on his hands, which I thought was a little... That seemed to be a little much if he was just talking about embezzlement or something.
Yeah, that is a little too much. But, and Indy comes to his friend's defense here.
Yeah, wrong thing to say.
Yeah, wrong thing to say. He says that Marcus is one of his closest friends, one of the most painfully honest guys that he knows. Indy looks like he's about to throw a punch here, which surprises Sloms-Hagen. I'm sure it would surprise anyone here. But
Sloms-Hagen.
That's right. I love that. I love that. That's a nice little touch there.
Snarky Indy
by
there.
Michelinie. Yeah, that's a nice touch there by Michelinie.
Very much. So, yeah, he's kind of ticked off. And then we jump, and that's it. That's it for Sloms-Hagen.
That's it. He's gone.
Yeah, we're back in Marcus's office. Here's, I like this adventure, but here's where the artwork starts to go a little bit wonky for me. We've got
for me too.
Yeah, Marcus. We've got Marcus in his office. He's kind of clearing out his office. He's ready to take off. Marion comes in, and it just from panel to panel, both of them just completely change appearance. It's just not. It's not great. It's not great.
Marion looks the best as she does on this page. I do agree. That's one thing I did notice. She got progressively worse as the story goes on.
Yeah,
she's aged. It doesn't even look like her. But on this one page here, I think it's the closest that they've got here.
That's true. As the book progresses, she starts getting more and more like mannish looking.
Yes.
Like I don't even know.
And she acts like a man.
Yeah.
Seems to fit.
That's for sure.
We've got a couple of great Harrison Fords, though. I mean, and we've always heard how tough he is to draw, but it seems like McDonald got Harrison Ford right, but not Marcus or Marion.
Yeah, that's true. It's unfortunate. The art really is all over the place, and it's not just in the beginning of the book. It's pretty much the whole book that the art just kind of jumps really around. I mean, even look at Marcus here. And, on one page you have him like a little bit more rotund, and his face changes completely from one panel to the next.
Yeah.
So it's kind of disappointing. I have to be honest. As I'm reading this book, I'm just more into the story, and kind of like the art is just like taking a second, a second place for me. I'm kind of just more glancing at the art and more just reading the words for this one.
Yeah. Well, and as we could tell from the past interviews, this is where the book started to go off the rails a little bit as far as the artwork, because things had to come in. Well, they had to bring Ditko in at one point, and then Trimpe comes back for a little bit, and then Ditko comes back in. So it's just deadlines and trying to rush things. We talked about the cover. So the art is going to be, as we go through, I'm a little bit more understanding of why the artwork isn't completely the best.
Yeah,
because of those deadlines that we talked about and just trying to rush the book out. Michelinie solid as usual, but the only thing is maybe I would have toned down some of the dialogue a little bit. It just seems to be fighting with the artwork.
It's fighting with the art. I agree. But you know what? When you get this kind of art, I don't know.
Maybe the dialogue balloons are better.
It's kind of better. I have
They're
to be
consistent.
Honest. Yeah, I have to be honest. And you know what? There is lots of story here. Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on in this issue. Marcus is... He's kind of like, he's done. He knows. He says, my credibility's ruined. My career at a curator is at an end. He's just like, you know what? I'm just going to retire. I'm out of here. Have fun, guys. And Indy's not too happy with that.
Yeah, Indy wants to look into it. We talked about it.
He doesn't want him to give up so easily.
Yeah, and so but the fact is, Indy knows that was the original, so he knows that there's a setup going on. He knows there's a mystery to be solved. So they start talking about. They mentioned that the only people with clearance to move large objects around during the setup were the men who installed the boiler.
Yeah, I mean a little bit of a stretch there, but.
Why would it be the boiler man? Well, I don't know. I didn't get that. Ron, I mean, did that make any sense to you?
No, it didn't. But just to go back to what you're saying about Marcus, you're right. Like, he was ready to retire. I think he was going fly fishing, and and as soon as he says, you know what, Marion and I are going to go on this crusade. That's when all of a sudden I think he takes offense to it. Now all of a sudden Marcus needs to jump into action.
Yeah, Indy follows up this boiler, these boiler guys. He follows up that lead, so he heads over to the boiler works. And wants to speak to Al, the foreman. Indy claims to have found his fingerprints on the Arnam Ring, and Al is just kind of like
on a stone. Fingerprints on a stone. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, now here's the thing. Indy pulls out this envelope. Okay. I mean, we could talk about the art, but I think we've bashed it enough here. I mean, why is that guy Al like? Golden all of a sudden.
Golden Owl, strange.
He must have been part of the icons of Ikemonin from the first couple of issues. Anyway, so Indy pulls out this envelope. Now, you and I talked about this too, Joe. Does Indy really have any information in there? Yeah, or you think he's just trying to get a little something out of this guy?
No, he's making it up.
He's moving up as he goes.
I thought it was. Yeah, hey, he walks into this, museum, doesn't know who these guys are, and he's got this envelope saying, "I got your fingerprints here." He's not a cop, and I think he actually introduces himself from the museum.
Yeah. I'm Professor Jones, and they're just like, all right, whatever. They really don't. They're drinking their coffee. They're like,
it's not like he's posing as a detective or anything like that.
And he knows he's not dealing with the sharpest knives in the drawer either.
Right.
He thinks he can take Al, the foreman, in a battle of wits. I think he's
and he does.
Yeah.
He actually he takes him on and he wins because Al here is like, what do you mean you have my fingerprints? I never touched the thing. And Indy's like, what? Oh, okay. What's that you say? And he just kind of like, he reveals, he gives himself up essentially.
Al's busted at this point.
And then he just tries to throw a coffee in Indy's face. I hope it's decaf.
Honey, that's great coffee.
It's just,
what's going on with Norman Bates here?
Well, Al's busted, but so is Luke McDonald's busted for this artwork because now all of a sudden, she's full on Norman Bates. Mom.
This is bad.
Yeah, it's just Norma Bates.
I just thought, I love the coffee throw though, because, when I was reading this, I was kind of laughing to myself because I'm like, Indiana Jones, all these adventures he's had and near death experiences. And the guy throws a hot thing coffee and the comments that he makes after he throws a hot coffee at him.
That's right. Indy's been in fights with like all these crazy, like big, German mechanics and thuggy guards and all this stuff. This guy throws a coffee at him and knocks him over the head with a cup. And look at that. It even just says bip. And Indy's down on the ground.
I wonder how John Williams would have scored this scene.
It would have wah.
I can't tell you that one panel when he gets punched and Marion's running after him. It's hard to decipher because I'm looking at him like, is he laying down? Is he being thrusted backwards? I'm like, this is so bad.
It's really bad.
But I do like the sense that Marion jumps into action. So again, artwork aside, I do like the fact that Marion jumps into action. Indy's out for the count by a coffee cup. Okay. So she takes off after Al the foreman. He jumps in the truck. She jumps on the truck. She pulls an Indy.
Yeah.
She jumps on the truck. That's what Indy did in Raiders too.
Yep. Exactly.
with the German mechanic, and he's taking a swing at her. She's biting his arm. The truck crashes. She goes flying off.
And that right there is just it just looks like it's a guy in a wig at that point.
Yeah.
That is the most horrible picture I've seen or drawing I've seen of Marion Ravenwood. It just looks nothing like her. It looks like a man. But now that we've said that 100 times.
Yeah, it's a shame that the artwork doesn't match up to the action because I think it actually, a coffee cup aside, I think it is a pretty good action set piece for the comic book. I mean, you've got things going on. You've got Marion jumping in like you always want her to throwing some punches and throwing down with guys. She flies off. The truck crashes. Indy doesn't really seem to care. He's just trying to get Al the foreman. She's like, yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah, just got thrown off a truck going 35 miles an hour into my face, but let's go get him.
How's that coffee, by the way, Indy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that's a little reminiscent of Raiders too, because you think about it, when she's in the tent and she's like, "Get me out of here, let's go get it," and then he's like,
"Yep,
if I take you out of here, they're going to comb the place looking for you." He leaves her there.
Yeah. So the characters are very much in character here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's very Raiders-esque.
Like I said, and that is that's Michelinie's writing. Michelinie knows these characters, especially by this point.
Yeah,
so he's writing them pretty well.
Al's got a forklift. He's going to come after them. He's still making it up as he goes along. They're going down these crates and the
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull revisited here.
Yeah, we do have
It's back in a warehouse. That's what it reminded me of.
Do have a lot of warehouse. Yep,
that's a good point. And
Indy running around. We've got Norman Bates in the dress again. Hanging out under the floor. Al the foreman. He's a bad shot too. I mean, he's got Indy point-blank range, and he, misses him. He, fires to the left. I don't know. He's taken out with an umbrella. Who's got the umbrella?
Genius of the Restoration. HRO. Henry, what are you doing here? This is the Marcus we wanted. Like I said earlier, you know what? A lot of people have said in the past that, the Marcus that we get, the differences between Raiders Marcus and Last Crusade Marcus are vast. Okay, we all know that.
Yeah. Well, it's comic relief in Last Crusade.
Well, no, that's right. I mean, that's been one of my. It's funny because I think about that all the time. He was, in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he actually made a comment to Indy that if he was younger, he would have gone after the Ark himself. So in my mind, I'm like, he must have been this great archaeologist, and then they make him kind of like a bumbling fool in the Last Crusade. So that's why I kind of like this one because he actually looks good. They got the way they draw him. He's got big shoulders, and he's getting into it here.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. And it's strange you say that too because I just happened to see Raiders again the other day. It was in the theater. Went and saw it again for the umpteenth millionth time, and actually when it got to that scene when they're talking, when he says I would have gone after it myself 5 years ago, that just resonated with me in a way that it hadn't before.
Especially after reading this book, too.
Yeah, because you think about it, it's like, oh, yeah, he and Indy and Abner, they were all together on some adventures. I mean, we've got those lost adventures of Indiana Jones, and they he learned from those guys.
Sure.
So, and it almost reminds me a little bit of on Magnum P.I. Higgins, where he's the major domo, and he's kind of rotund, and he's older, and they always kind of make fun of him. But he was in MI6 back in the day.
And he's doing karate in the opening credits.
Yeah, and you've got those flashback episodes where the Higgins character was in MI6, and he was like throwing down and things. So, man, there's probably a lot of hidden Marcus adventures. And this is what we'd want. This is the Marcus we wanted
to see. And you know what, Ron? It's funny that you say that this whole thing reminded you of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. When Marion gets in that forklift and she's like ready to back over Al's head. I mean, that was a deleted scene from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. They were using Mac as a bargaining chip to get Indy to help them. And that's a deleted scene. The Russians throw Mac down and they're threatening to run over his head. And then that's when Indy's like, all right, fine, I'll help you guys. Like, so that reminded me of that deleted scene. So
yeah, it's kind of fun to go back when you look at these things, and now you got these movies that obviously came out years and years later, and now you can kind of make the connection. Although they did not know that this was going to happen, but it's kind of neat to see that.
It really is. That
really happens a lot in Further Adventures. I mean, there's a lot, the bridges and the so many Temple of Doom things that pop up in Temple of Doom later, and it's just like, there's no way they knew at the time, but boy, and again, some of these things are tropes that they mention in action adventure movies, but it is kind of cool to look at this and go, that's interesting.
Yeah, it sure is, and again, using Al as a bargaining chip here in a way.
Blue hair Al.
He kind of looks a little bit like Superman. He's wearing a red shirt. And, I don't know. Anyway,
like B. Arthur with a blue hair.
I know. You know what? If they ran that
did the coloring again?
Superman. Oh, geez. Yeah, the coloring.
Carosella.
Robbie Carosella.
Come on, Robbie.
Yeah,
it's a little too blue.
Not good. But Marion threatens to run over his head.
That's a great Marion. I know, that's cool.
And then he's like, she wouldn't. And he's like, oh, no, she would.
Yeah.
I mean, if he knew anything about Marion, she would do it.
She just jumped on a truck and bit his arm. Like, why wouldn't she?
Exactly. But he gives up who's kind of responsible here pretty quickly. He's like, all right, the guy that you want, his name is Juan Soto. He's a Cuban. Paid him good money. All he had to do was turn his back for a couple hours, dummy up. But unfortunately, that testimony right there won't clear Marcus. Indy is going to have to go and check things out for himself. They're going to have to fly to Havana for this.
Yeah, so they got to figure out like why Juan Soto wants the Arnam Ring.
Yeah, that's the big question mark. Why in the first place did he even take this thing? I mean, we obviously know it's probably worth a lot of money, but there might be something else behind this.
Yep. So Indy and Marcus get some tickets. He doesn't get two. He gets 3.
Yeah, I'll tell him we'll take 2.
No, Donovan. Marcus. I like how Marcus now is inundated in this adventure. So this is a little fun.
That's why I love this part. I mean, it's the 3 of them kind of going together. Again, this is the Marcus we want. We don't want the goofy, silly, wacky Marcus that gets lost in his own museum.
Exactly. Because Marcus, let's face it, Marcus does have a lot to lose here. And we all know Marcus. We know he does not want to give this up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He wants to stick around. He wants to stay curator of the museum. He wants to still be around Indy. He doesn't want his reputation to be tarnished. So he's got a lot at stake here. Of course he's going to go along.
Yep. And let's give credit to Luke McDonald here. Really good Indy and Marion about halfway down the middle of that page. So
yeah,
good stuff as they're on the plane to Cuba.
Why didn't they stop and change their clothes, though? They're still wearing the same thing that they...
I know, and they did pack.
Day. It's the next day.
Yeah.
What, do they sleep in their clothes?
And they did pack, because we know they have clothes to change into, so they did go home, so yeah. Or Carousella, color them different. Give them a different suit or something, yeah.
I'm picking nits here. That's
you
all
are.
Right.
But yeah, Marcus realizes, as you mentioned, he's got a lot to lose here, and we're Havana, 1936, so we get our place and time here that we usually get within an Indy adventure. So, man, a lot happened in 1936.
Yeah, Indy had a busy year. And
seriously?
He had a pretty busy year so far. I mean, 20 issues into Further Adventures. He had Raiders. Who knows what happened even before that? I mean, unbelievable.
Yep. So we're in Havana, Cuba. We've got Indy's contacts. Three old ladies and a bum.
3 old ladies, yeah.
Again, we got B. Arthur. Is it? I don't know how often I get to reference B. Arthur in an IndyCast.
Well, the local government couldn't stop. The local government couldn't stop Juan Soto for his drug dealings. You know, they don't know anything about it. But these 3 old women told Andy exactly, what he does, where he's located, the whole schematics.
And
it was the Golden Girls.
Yeah,
they were his contacts. Ma.
Well, Marion does look like Estelle Getty a little bit here.
Yes, she does.
This is starting to become a strange Indy adventure.
Thank you for being a friend.
Thank you for being a contact. Thank you for being a drug contact, B.
Oh my goodness!
So they check out Juan Soto's compound here. We've got Indy in full Indy gear. Everybody's dressed the way they should be dressed. Marcus looks ripped. Did he work out on the plane?
Yeah, he was working. He was shooting up some steroids or something on the way here, man. Because
and Marcus is like, let's go.
Yeah, like I said.
And Marcus, this reminds me of The Last Crusade. When he first meets Elsa in Venice, and they're both flirting with each other. I think, and Marcus interrupts him there and says, "Can we please get on what we're supposed to do here?" This reminds
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Yes.
Yeah. So he's like, here they are, with these little flirtations going back and forth, and Marcus is like, can we please get on this? My reputation's at stake here.
Yeah, that's the comedy I like of Marcus, not the goofball, but yeah, that's a great comedic moment, and again. That's years before Last Crusade, and we have that here. So during the scripting phase for Last Crusade, did they kind of pull it from that? Because that's a really cool moment.
It might have.
That would be a great question. That it is neat that's why I said I love going back and looking at these things.
Yep. And that's a direct reference because that's a direct character trait that goes back to that. So they go in. Here's where we start to get our cover. Where we're coming in, we had that big field there. They're running through it. Marcus wants to tear into it. Indy says, I'll go first, but hey, be careful. Well, Indy doesn't take his own advice. Trips the alarm. And inside the main house, we finally get a look at Juan Soto and his albino squirrel.
I mean, if that's a James Bond reference if I've ever seen one.
Albino squirrel?
Yeah, come on. It's like, look at Mr. Bigglesworth right there. That's a cute little...
The squirrel doesn't even look like he's buying it.
Is that definitely a squirrel?
Yes.
It looks like one.
I don't know if it was a little small cat at first.
I know. I think that's a squirrel. But also, by the way, too, guys, I own this original piece of art. This page, I own this the original artwork from this page. I got it at Comic-Con a couple of years ago.
Very nice.
Yeah, this is a great piece because I just love the action on this page. Now we have Juan Soto, who with his albino squirrel. He's like, no, let's greet our guests properly. All right, a crop dusting plane comes in. And this is where we start to get our cover, like we mentioned earlier. Marcus says, look, a crop dusting plane is coming in. And he says, like, I see it. Let's throw our handkerchiefs over our face just so we don't breathe any of this stuff in. But it's not dust that they start spreading. They start shooting at these guys in the sugarcane field, and there are bullets going off all over. This is a very good action scene. Everything that comes out of Indy's mouth here, you could definitely picture Harrison Ford saying this.
Yeah, well, even the pointing. because Harrison Ford always does that pointing thing.
Yes.
Even when Temple of Doom, when he's telling Shorty, go,
Yeah,
he's pointing and the bullets are hitting around him. So, it's coming right up on Temple of Doom here. We see that. You can hear John Williams' music. You can hear Harrison Ford screaming this, acting out perfect characterizations here, and great artwork. We've been busting McDonald's chops. Looks good here.
Art gets way better right in this little section. You know what? Perfect timing for it. Like we said, great action sequence.
That matches the cover, which we love.
And you know what? Again, very Last Crusade here. Indy and his companions are getting shot at by an airplane. Indy has an idea. I mean, he must have suddenly remembered his Charlemagne here. Let his armies be the rocks, the trees, and the tractors in the field, right? Isn't that how it goes?
He makes it up as he goes.
But he has a good idea here. Now that the pilot's distracted, Indy just soaks that handkerchief that he was wearing in the gas tank, lights it, and as that plane comes around for another pash, that tractor just goes up, man, and takes the plane with it.
Yeah, Ron, what did you think of the action sequences in this particular issue? I mean, we've got a few of them.
We got a great, we're going to be coming up to a real good ones, I think, in a few pages, which I really enjoyed. But no, this was great. And I do agree with you. This is typical Indiana Jones. He jumped into his MacGyver mode and, making a bomb out of the tractor. I mean, it's funny because after he does do this, it's, the first thing that Soto says that, must be Dr. Jones.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
but no, this is great. I love it. Anything with the planes, it reminds me of The Last Crusade. So this is just great Indiana Jones stuff here.
And a little bit of a Raiders throwback, too, when you think about, when everything's just exploding and then Belloc just goes, Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's just like, well, who else could it be? And then he pets his little albino squirrel.
I'm so pleased that our friends are not dead.
They're not. They made it to the wall.
That's right. Now what?
Well, they have to go into the compound.
And then what?
You didn't think Juan Soto was going to let him get away that easily, did you?
No. We get some intense-looking wolves here. I mean,
release the wolves.
Yes, release the wolves. These things are intense-looking, man. But Indy springs into action, and we get, finally, after the whole book, I mean, I don't know, when was the last time we really saw the whip? We saw it in Dragon by the Tail. He used it to drag, of course, behind the dragon by the tail, but we get a great little moment here with Indy and his whip.
We do, but wouldn't it make more sense to get the gun?
Well, that's Marion's thinking, and she grabs that gun. But before that happens, before she starts shooting those wolves, a whistle goes off, and these must be specially trained wolves. As soon as they hear that whistle, they just kind of scurry off. We don't even kind of know where they go.
It's trained wolves. Yeah, when I saw these, I'm like, how's he going to get out of this one? And like you said, the trained wolf, that's stretching it there.
Yeah, stretching it a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But again, it's Indiana Jones. So these wolves disappear, and then we finally get an introduction.
Hey, if you can train a squirrel, you can train a wolf, right?
Yes, an albino squirrel and red-eyed wolves. Exactly. Who knows what else he has on this compound? Jeez.
Crazy Juan Soto. Yeah. So he takes them. He gets them captured. Indy says, I don't suppose you'd care to give up. And then Marcus
is like,
Marcus is the man of action here. I mean, he's all of a sudden he's like lighting up a cigar.
Yes. Yep. It looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger right there. It's amazing.
From Commando. Exactly.
Yeah. Indy's fighting for his life here. They're finally going to meet the guy who's setting him up here, and Marcus is hanging back, lighting up a Cuban. I want to know where he got the cigar at. That's the first question was on my mind.
This is a very cool Marcus in this issue, we got to admit.
But you know what? It's a good idea that Marcus did that.
Well,
because
he's not just a drug runner.
Soto is also a gun runner.
Yep. He's into everything.
Yeah, so they're also, I mean, not just a gun runner and drug runner, whatever. He's also a slave trader, or he knows some slave traders. Yeah. He wants to sell Marion to the slave traders. And
he's the Cuban Connection.
He's the Cuban Connection, exactly. And Soto seems to be the middleman for someone else who wants the Arnam Ring. So that's probably how he knew Indiana Jones. I mean, he probably learned about Indy's reputation. Hey, you know what? This Arnam Ring was procured by this guy, Indiana Jones. He might come looking for it. So just to be aware. So as soon as all this action started going on, I think that's why Soto was like, Jones is here.
And you kind of wondered why would he even care about the Arnam Ring? Because he's into drugs, he's into guns, he's into slave trading. I mean, so you kind of wonder, like, why would he care about an artifact anyway? And that makes total sense. He was just the middleman because whoever is the mastermind behind this just doesn't want to get his hands dirty.
Right. It's like he's setting a trap, just waiting for Indiana Jones to come. And as soon as he comes, he lets him in.
So
I love it here, too. I do love it here when, there's so much going on and he's monologuing about everything. But he does take notice that Marcus doesn't have a cigar anymore.
That's
right.
That
was pretty funny.
Soto's actually a pretty smart guy, I have to say.
Yeah, and that's a great little moment by Michelinie, too.
Yeah, it is. And you could see that I don't know. Soto just seems very worried. Like, wait a minute, where's that cigar? And you know what? Dios mío, man.
Get a lot of Dios mío in some of these further adventures.
Marcus, man,
nothing good follows that.
Again, Marcus was quick thinking, man. He got Indy and Marion out of this.
Yep, tossed this cigar right into the munitions, and boom. Takes the place out and provides them just enough cover that they needed, just enough distraction so that Indy could take the gun, Marion could start throwing down, and they just escape. And Soto realizes, I got to get out of here.
Marcus would rather spit in his face, but being that he doesn't have any spit, he uses a cigar.
Yeah, it's just a cigar into his munitions.
It's great. And he even says himself, I'd say I still have the touch, Indiana. So you know what? Right there, again, when you put that in combination with what he says in Raiders, like, when Marcus was younger, he was a bad dude, man.
Yeah, and there's something else coming up in this adventure that will tell us that he's even badder than we thought.
Right. I mean, this is good. This kind of like revitalizes Marcus. He didn't want to go in the beginning. Now he's involved in it, and then, like you said, he's coming back to his roots.
Yep, he's coming back to his roots. He's getting everybody out of trouble.
Yeah, he saved Indy.
Saved Indy. Yeah. And how often can you say that?
Not very often. But again, another Last Crusade reference here. We got a boat chase.
We got a boat.
That's right. Soto wants to get out of there. He has to get to his boat. Pulling a fast fade, as Marion says. But the other thing is Indy, Marcus, and Marion get into this little boat, and they're chasing Soto in his boat, which is it looks like a much faster boat called the Flying Squid. Interesting name for the boat. They even say, we're never going to catch it. That's a shark fishing boat. Has more power than theirs. Got any ideas? And Marion's like, yeah, but number one, I'm not your sweetheart. Pulls out Indy's gun, starts shooting at him, and this is where this stunt to me. This is. Of course, you need a really good stunt set piece in this book. That's what Indiana Jones is known for, amazing stunts, right? But for some reason, for me, this stunt seems even worse than the fridge, if you want my honest opinion. Indy gets a rope and throws it across while both boats are moving at a high speed, and
it didn't come back, hit him in the face.
Right, didn't come back, hit him in the face, gets it around a cleat.
Yeah.
Okay. Then starts climbing over the boat while both boats moving. So they must have been going at the same speed, because then the rope would have gone slack, wouldn't it? Is that just me or?
No, you're right. Or Soto could have took a hard left or right and it could have been done with.
And that would have been it, exactly. Yeah. So this, that moment is the only, again, like I said, even worse than. I don't even mind the fridge, to be honest. It's Indiana Jones, so I'm like, yeah, whatever, fine. Indy drank from the Grail. All of his bones are totally perfect and great, perfect, awesome. So of course he would have survived that. But this, I'm having a little bit of a hard time with this stunt.
Well, it's just such a long. You look at that shot of the rope. It's just such a long journey to have to crawl along there. Yeah. It's not like it's a few feet. It would have made a better set piece.
He doesn't even have his gloves on.
No.
Right.
I think it would have made a better stunt if they had just been able to pull close enough that he could have made the leap over. Yeah, right. You kind of get that scene in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull where they're going through the jungle and he does that leap across and then throws a haymaker right at the same time. That would be a cool moment for this. That would have been nice.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Or they could have done like a kind of a for your eyes only kind of thing. Tied him to the boat, go back and forth, have Indy work him way up into the boat. That would have been kind of neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even that.
Cool too. But the only thing Soto can think of is this will take care of Jones, and he cuts the engine.
He slows the boat down.
Yeah, of course.
And Indy's he cut the engine. That wasn't in the plan. Well, sorry, Indy.
Yeah,
it's not.
Exactly. So this is
this
the only
one
spot.
is the sharpest knife in the drawer. This isn't Al the foreman.
Exactly. So yeah, Soto's like I said before, Soto's a pretty smart guy. But Indy, you know what? He, of course, being Indiana Jones, he still gets up there. Again, Soto also doesn't seem to be the best of shots. He fires off a couple of shots at Indy.
For a gun runner, he can't shoot.
Yeah, he
just sells them. He doesn't use them.
Who knows? Maybe he's seasick, Joe.
I'm getting seasick.
I mean, the boat's as big as the Orca, so I don't know how you can miss him here.
Well, yeah, that's not exactly. That's not the only connection we're going to have to another certain Steven Spielberg directed film coming up here. But
yeah, you can almost see it coming. But
real quick, we forgot to mention how his hat is still on after falling in the water and being pulled and all.
And kudos to Michelinie and McDonald for keeping the hat on. Yep. Kudos, gentlemen. Yep. Kudos for keeping the hat.
A lot of artists knocked it off because it was tough to draw. But
that's right. They kept it on. And you know what? Indy says here, I mean, a pretty important piece of dialogue. Without Soto, the trucker's testimony is thin. He's got to take him back alive. All right? So Indy knocks the gun out of his hand, and you know what? They're going to go mano a mano here. Yeah. And again,
pretty good fight.
Not only is Soto smart, he's tough, man. Yeah. He takes it to Indy. Indy, if Indy didn't have any help here, I think he might have even lost this one.
Great artwork here too when he's punched him in the face on the bottom. That's great.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this is one of the better Further Adventures fight scenes that we have because that's all playing out while Marion and Marcus are trying to get on the boat, and there's just a lot of action going on all at one time, and then all of a sudden, Indy says, "Watch out, Marion!" and there's this bucket of chum that goes flying over her head and almost hits her.
Hey, Chief, get another chum line going there.
Hooper drives the boat, Chief.
Hooper drives the boat, Chief.
I think somebody saw that movie. We know what's coming.
Indy can't take this abuse much longer.
Yeah, we know what's coming. He did get a bigger boat, but I don't know that it's going to help.
No, I mean, they're totally setting it up here. That's a shark fishing boat, and then the chum goes in the water, and and it's basically like, all right, expositional dialogue here. It's shark bait, a bloody mixture designed to attract man-eaters, and Soto is still just pummeling Indy. He
grabs a spear too,
eating the tar out of him. And you know what? Yeah, he's swinging that spear. And is it just me, guys, or that last panel of Indy? It looks like old Indy with the eye patch.
Hold on, lover,
yeah. I'm surprised Marion is standing here right next to him, and she's been so tough this whole book here, and she didn't even jump in to help him.
No, she was biting guys on the arms earlier.
Yeah.
And just like in Raiders, when he's fighting the German mechanic, she jumps in the plane and just starts shooting all those other Nazis in the butt. You know what I mean? She's.
Well, there is a plot point that has to come up here though, because if Marion had been involved, then Indy wouldn't have been able to get the upper hand with the two of them by themselves, and all of a sudden, Soto says, "I'll tell you who it is, but it's only for your ears," and it's like.
Which also doesn't make
that one I have a tough time with because there's no reason he would just like whisper in Indy's ear,
right.
This name. I think it would have been better if they would have done a cutaway to Marcus and Marion, and they see them going back and forth about something, but they can't hear what's going on. Like he could have been screaming the name. And they couldn't hear it. So I think that would have made more sense.
Cut back to a reaction shot going, oh my, no, not him.
Yeah.
Something like that. Which, I agree, would have been way better. But maybe, who knows? Maybe they were a little short on space, or who knows?
That's a strange moment there. But I think it could have been handled better. But
now that Indy has his information, and he's totally, surprised by it, Soto takes advantage of that and pushes him over those rails. Indy's almost about to fall in. Soto makes a dive for Indy and Marion and Marcus's boat that they took out here. But as he dives in the water, that's kind of a big mistake, especially since the chum went in the water. It seems that they attracted some sharks.
Yeah, he looks like Superman jumping on here, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. That's right. Cue the John Williams music, and here we have Jaws 5.
Yep.
Here, and unfortunately, Soto does not get helped out. Here as much as he screams for help. He gets eaten up, gobbled up.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies.
Yep, he is gone, but we find out who the main villain of the piece is.
Before that, he's gone, and also gone is Marcus's hope of getting himself cleared.
Well,
or is it?
So we know somebody else wanted the Arnam Ring. Soto didn't want the ring. He couldn't care less. He was just the middleman.
Right.
Now we have the big reveal. It's Ben Ali Ayoub.
He's back, folks. He's back.
We knew he wasn't going to go away, Keith.
No, we didn't.
Ron, what do you think of the villains of the piece? I mean, going back to Ben Ali Ayoub, Keith and I liked him a lot.
No, I like him very much. I mean, like he's the one thing I do like getting back to this though. Going back with Soto, I like this because it was they were more of a match with the fighting. The way they were drew here. So I will say, just talking about this book right here, I actually did enjoy the villain. Soto. I wish he didn't die. I really wish there was something came by and they saved him so we'd see him again. But getting back, I love the villain. I think it's great. I mean, it's been in a few issues already, so I'm really enjoying it.
The whole network is being being put in jail. Juan Soto has been killed, but Ali Ayoub is like he's calm, he's relaxed. He's like, you know what? It means like Jones is on his way here. It's cool. Then we can continue our game to the inevitable conclusion. So Ayoub sees this as a game. He's not even worried.
Yeah. Well, he wanted the Arnam Ring to begin with. I mean, he collects all these different things. He wanted basically Indy working for him, and Indy was like, no. I work for myself, and that was it. And Ben Ali Ayoub wasn't too thrilled about that, so we knew he wasn't going to go away.
It's all coming full circle now.
Yeah. So we have this 3-part adventure. As we get into the next one, we'll see a little bit. Again, the book is in chaos a little bit, so semi-spoiler alert. We don't really get a full Ben Ali Ayoub in the next issue, but he does come back in within the 3-part series. So a lot of action going on. Very cool issue, I thought, to kickstart this adventure.
I agree. I really like this. I really like the story, the way this storyline kicks off. Art, it leaves a little to be desired, but again, not a bad start. We got our first 3-part storyline here. I am definitely looking forward to getting into the second part.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, this was great. Especially, I just like the whole dynamic bringing Marcus in. And again, I'm a Marcus Brody fan, so just seeing him in action like that, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Well, Ron,
something we don't get to see too much.
What does it do too when you think about it? Because really, the only other Marcus connection we have, I mean, outside the books, and we've got those adventures within the novels themselves.
Right.
But to get the visuals on Marcus, I just always thought Last Crusade was lacking for him.
Yeah, I mean, he was in it. He was predominantly in the movie. I mean, they really, expanded his role in that. But unfortunately, I guess they just wanted to go. The Last Crusade more or less was probably the funniest one out of the quadrilogy. So I think I think that's maybe they were going that route with them. Let's make them a little funny, a little bumbling. Maybe we'll go a different direction because Raiders of the Lost Ark was a little more down tone, especially going after the biblical arc and all. So it was a little more serious. This was, although with the Grail bringing in Sean Connery, they kind of brought a little humor into it, which was fun.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think every Indiana Jones movie is like a subgenre of an action movie. So Raiders, like you said, it's a little bit more serious. It's a serious action movie. Little bits of humor thrown in. Temple is the horror adventure movie.
Yeah.
Crusade is the comedy. And Crystal Skull is the sci-fi. So each movie is different than the other. And you're absolutely right. Crusade was definitely the comedy. I think it just went a little overboard with Crusade. I mean, I love the movie, don't get me wrong, but it was a little too much. You could have had a more serious Marcus, and it still would have worked. And that's what we got in this book. We got a serious Marcus, and you know what? It worked.
I'm just glad he didn't say the pen is mightier than the sword in this one. The pen is mightier than the spear. Yeah, it'd be very good. Hey, maybe one day we'll get an animated Indiana Jones Adventures and a very cool Marcus. Might go along with that. Well, I think that wraps it up for issue 20. Gents, I think it was a very good start to Cuban Connection. I got to give it thumbs up on this one.
Me too. Thumbs up for me. Thumbs up for me. And I'm looking forward, like I said, to getting into part 2 of this.
Ron, how many Shankara stones would you give issue 20?
Well, you know what? I haven't done Shankara stones, and I think I retired, about 3.5 years ago. I forget how many I used to do. That's how bad it is.
So out of 5 Shankara stones, how many would you give it?
3.5.
3.5.
Yeah,
half a stone?
Yeah, 3.5 stones.
3.5 stones. That's not bad.
That's not too bad.
That's not bad. So, well, we appreciate you hanging out with us here in the.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I mean, like I said, I love comic books, but you guys are the experts here. So I'm happy to jump on and throw a couple comments in about it, and it was a lot of fun.
No, okay, that's it for the day then.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Indy's headed out. Keith, he'll be in his office Thursday, but not Wednesday.
That's right. Irene, make sure you get cards from everybody's signatures. You got to talk to Irene about when he's going to be back, but hopefully he will be back very soon in his office, and then you and I can go over part 2 of this 3-part story arc.
Cuban Connection, that's right. And we're looking forward to the next John Williams special as well.
That's
Ron,
right.
did we get a preview?
You just heard it. Actually, I'm, getting some tomatoes off me right now for some of the angry listeners for a couple of things I said about Superman. But Laird and I will be back in the fall. We're going to come back in the fall, and we're going to jump into Heidi that John Williams did. So something Laird and I have been wanting to do for a while. And who knows? We haven't really gotten the whole list. We know that some listeners wanted to hear a little more of Jurassic Park, so we're going to jump into some Jurassic Park too, and maybe we'll knock something out even for ET. So
nice,
very cool. We're looking forward to that for sure.
Good stuff. And hey, we want to hear from the listeners too. Let us know what you think about this 3-part Cuban Connection miniseries, the first Further Adventures miniseries. Beat up on Dragon by the Tail. We'll still take those emails. We want to beat up on it. It's fun to do. Keith, where can they send those emails?
That was a great episode. I enjoyed that.
We appreciate that. Thanks a lot.
That was funny.
Still hurting from that. I still think the marks are showing from that one.
Well, if anybody has any thoughts about that issue, the issue that we just talked about today, or any other Further Adventures issue, you know where to send those emails, thefurtheradventures@gmail.com. Don't forget also, we have the cover, the hand-drawn cover, the pencils of this issue that we've talked about, many other things on our Facebook page. Come on over and visit us on our Facebook page, The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones.
Love hearing from the listeners. Keith, enjoyed reviewing this issue with you. Ron, thank you once again. Listeners, send Ron and Laird some email about their segment. Where can they send those emails?
You can email Laird and I. The addresses are on the IndyCast that as provided. So if there's a tune that you want Laird and I to do, just please let us know, and we'll try to include it on our next special.
Definitely looking forward to that next John Williams special, Ron, with you and Laird. And Keith, looking forward to reviewing issue 21 of this 3-part adventure with you the next time on Further Adventures of Indiana Jones.